If there's one thing the leaders we admire most in movies seem to have in common over and over, that thing is integrity. They show us how a strong leader prioritizes the whole over themselves. They do what is right rather than what is easy. Consider Sir Thomas More in A Man for All Seasons, or Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird. This is Oscar Schindler, it's Colonel Dax, it's Gandhi, it's Lieutenant Nicholson in Bridge on the River Kwai almost to a fault, and the reason why Paul Rusesabagina saved over 1,200 lives. But if there's a leader in cinema who didn't have a single unintegral bone in her body, we think it might just have been Erin Brockovich.
We can get these people. With a little effort, I really think we can just nail their asses to the wall.
Oh, you do? With all your legal expertise, you believe that?
Don't you ever just know?
You also just know where the money's coming from. That's why most of these cases settle lack of money. You know what toxicologists and geology experts cost? Well, you're looking at $100,000 a month easy. I've already made a huge dent in my savings.
We'll figure it out. I admit, I don't know shit about shit, but I know the difference between right and wrong.
Erin Brockovich is pretty much allergic to doing anything but the right thing, and it probably says a lot about the world we live in that this caused her no shortage of trouble. When faced with insurmountable odds and an honest-to-God Goliath of an adversary, Brockovich refused to let the idea of impossible knock her off her conviction. And this conviction earned her two things. First, it made her unbelievably resilient. By honoring her best principles, she entered genuine alignment with her moral compass that no external force could shake. Second, it earned her permission to step into the role of leader to a community of people who were so mistrustful that they would accept nothing less than the real deal. We all crave a leader who does the right thing, not just sometimes, but every time. It lets us trust that they're ruled by their better angels. It's called principle, and Erin Brockovich shows us why that matters. One of the most admirable qualities a leader can possibly have is to lead from the front, to give no orders they wouldn't follow themselves. This is service leadership. This is Iron Man and Colonel Moore and General Patton and William Wallace. In another kind of way, it's Cardinal Bergoglio from The Two Popes, and the main character from The Last Temptation / Passion of the Christ. What was his name again? But if there's a service leader first in line and first on our minds these days, it's gotta be Black Panther's King T'Challa.
Wakanda will no longer watch from the shadows. We cannot. We must not. We will work to be an example of how we as brothers and sisters on this earth should treat each other.
It is with a heavy heart that we pay homage to the one and only King of Wakanda. T'Challa led every charge, he fought in every battle, even if that meant fighting alone, because he knew that his main responsibility as king was not to wear the armor, but to be the armor. Nothing inspires more confidence that it's all going to be okay than seeing your leader choose the front line, and T'Challa chose it every time. And we think one of the main reasons the character inspired so very many of us has a lot to do with the man behind the mask. Just as willing to show up on the front lines as the hero he was tapped to portray, Chadwick Boseman embodied the service leadership attitude in every step. Charitable, giving, humble, and kind, he lent support and sympathy while asking for none in return. Gone too soon but never forgotten, thank you for showing us what it means to lead. Closing in at our number 3 spot, we want to honor those movie leaders that show us the power of fostering unity. Even when it might be easier to build a coalition on divisiveness, this kind of leader knows that antagonizing the outgroup, while good for loyalty, is bad for peace and progress and pretty much everything else. Here we find Professor X and Harvey Milk and Mandela and Coach Herb Brooks and Caesar from Planet of the Apes. But we think the strongest force for unity might just be Coach Herman Boone from Remember the Titans.
This is where they fought the Battle of Gettysburg. 50,000 men died right here on this field, fighting the same fight that we're still fighting amongst ourselves today.
Remember the Titans isn't a perfect movie, but what it does have going for it is it absolutely peak Denzel Washington, and we cannot imagine a list of films about leadership without Denzel on it. The man is liquid charisma. He's 1,000 leaders all at once, and not just in Remember the Titans. Over and over again in the 90s and the early aughts, nobody had quite as commanding a presence as Washington's. And in Remember the Titans, he employs it in every possible way. Stern and percussive, twinkly-eyed and smirking, he refuses to accept selfishness, he fosters empathy, and in one of the film's better moments, he invites the boys to step outside themselves and into a grander narrative. He is the unmovable center. He believes in the power of people working with and for and on behalf of each other, and the results, well, they speak for themselves. Narrowing in at number 2, one of the most fun skills to watch a cinematic leader wield has to be a wicked high emotional IQ. It helps them to lead, but more often than not, it also engenders compassion within them. And our favorite leaders know how to make that an asset rather than a liability. So if you're in need of some empathy inspiration, look no further than Wonder Woman, or Mary Poppins, or Freedom Writer's Aaron Gruel, or Lieutenant Irwin from The Last Castle, or Moonlight's impeccable wand. They all remind us of the power of genuinely connecting with others, but our favorite, most empathetic leader almost comes without a name of his own. It's juror number 8 from 12 Angry Men.
Betting you've never been wronger in your life. If you're wasting your time, you ought to wrap it up.
Supposing you were the one that was on trial.
Well, I'm not used to supposing. I'm just a working man. My boss does the supposing, but I'll try one. Supposing you talk us all out of this and kid really did knife his father, huh?
He wasn't appointed the foreman, but subtly, slowly, and even probably against his wishes, the rest of the jurors gradually begin to look more and more to number 8 for which way to go. And it isn't because he's loud, or because he's brash, or because he demeans people he doesn't like. It's because he, as a human being, sees them all as human beings and invites them, where they are, to join him in empathizing in different ways. Over and over, his first instinct is to put himself in others' shoes, setting off a snowball that sees the remaining jurors cast aside their own initial judgments. And from there, Fonda seeks to understand them, to find their sticking points and to engage them there. And every time he seems to find his way, with his immense emotional intelligence, exactly to the right part of the conversation that unlocks their resistance. By the end of the day, everyone has followed his lead. And finally, as we finish our list, we saved our top slot for the power of the visionary. More than just a list of tasks, it's the ability to give people something to believe in, a story to tell themselves about what the future could look like, which sounds an awful lot like what we love about filmmaking. It's what got them up on their desks in the Dead Poets Society. It's what made Neo finally believe in The Matrix, what inspired the students in Mr. Holland's Opus, and what got thousands of civil rights activists marching across the Edmund Pettus Bridge on their way to Montgomery in pursuit of a more equal tomorrow behind Martin Luther King Jr. in Selma.
When will we be free? Soon and very soon, because you shall reap what you sow. When will we be free? Soon and very soon, because no lie can live forever. When will we be free? Soon and very soon, because mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Here, the line between the man and the character grows particularly blurry and thin, but DuVernay and Oyelowo's spectacular interpretation allows us to pay homage to both at once. In planning this list, we talked about how Selma's MLK could have been at home in pretty much any of these slots, but when we got into where he belongs most, it had to be here. It seems to us that MLK's most revered message, his most memorable speech, perhaps the most famous set of 4 words ever spoken, was, "I have a dream." The man conjured up and believed in a vision so strongly, so loudly, that it enabled millions to see it too. Now, Selma isn't about that speech, doesn't contain that speech, because there was so much more to the man and his story and his message than just that one dream. But his vision is no less on display. And for that vision, thousands walked into a line of violent police. Twice. But that was his superpower. He could make everyone who listened to him talk see what was in his head, even feel it. He was a starry-eyed radical dreamer with a preacher's elocution and the guts to believe that while the arc of the moral universe is long, it does bend towards justice, which is why we think that he's one of the best role models of good leadership of all time. So what do you think? Did we leave out any of your favorite leaders? Disagree with any of our picks? Let us know in the comments below and be sure to subscribe for more Cinefix movie lists.